The story kicks off with Holden Price, a young man whose father, Mason, had spared no expense on his top-tier education. But here's the thing. They hadn't seen each other in 2 years. Out of the blue, Mason invited Holden to Chicago, setting the stage for a reunion that Holden didn't know would change everything. When he arrived home, the housekeeper, Meline, practically lit up with excitement. "Holden, I missed you," she said, her eyes warm. But she wasn't just here for the hugs. She hinted that Mason had a surprise waiting and urged Holden to find him. Holden, curious and slightly anxious, made his way to his father's room. He called out, "Dad?" No response. Silence. But something didn't feel right. So he peeked into the bathroom, cautiously opening the door. And there she was, a woman, fresh out of the shower, stood wrapped in a towel, water dripping from her hair. Her expression? Calm. No embarrassment. No anger. Just a soft, knowing smile. "Mind closing the door behind you?" she asked, as if nothing unusual had just happened. Holden, stunned, closed the door like a robot. Before he could process what had just happened, Mason walked into the room. With a warm hug, he proudly admired how much his son had grown. Then, with a mischievous grin, Mason guided Holden back to the bathroom door and said, "That woman you just saw? She's Lana, my new wife." Holden froze. His new what? Trying to wrap his head around it all. Holden followed Mason to the living room. "Why didn't you tell me you got married?" he asked, bewildered. Mason just chuckled. "Wanted to surprise you." Judging by your face, mission accomplished. Needing to clear his head, Holden stepped outside for some fresh air. But things only got more interesting. There was Lana, his stepmother, sitting in the sunlight, casually applying lotion to her legs, her movements graceful and calculated. Holden tried not to stare, but couldn't help sneaking a shy glance. Then Mason showed up, breaking the moment. "Lana, darling, get ready for tonight." Later that evening, the family attended a lavish charity event, one of Mason's many social power moves. As guests mingled over champagne, Mason introduced Holden to his attorney, Harry. But Mason, always juggling responsibilities, had to step away, leaving Holden alone with Lana. "Tell me," Lana said with a playful grin, "any special women in your life?" Holden shifted awkwardly. "I just broke up with my girlfriend, Stacy." "Ah," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Well, about earlier in the bathroom. No hard feelings?" Holden chuckled nervously. "Sorry about that." She leaned in slightly. "It'll be our little secret," she whispered. Moments later, Lana excused herself and walked over to Harry, leaning in close and whispering something in his ear. Holden watched, puzzled. But Mason, who had also noticed, wasn't puzzled. He was suspicious. His gaze hardened as he observed his wife and lawyer, sensing something deeper was at play. Soon after, Lana returned and introduced Holden to a young woman named Nicole. "Holden, meet Nicole. You two should chat," she said with a wink before slipping away. At the auction, Mason made a grand gesture, winning a breathtaking necklace for Lana. She beamed with delight, hugging him and thanking him warmly in front of everyone. To outsiders, they looked like the perfect couple. But cracks were already forming. When they returned home, the night seemed to wind down, or so Holden thought. As Harry was about to leave, Lana walked him to the door and, without hesitation, gave him a quick peck on the lips. Mason saw it. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched. The second the door closed behind Harry, Mason exploded. "Lana, what the hell was that?" His voice boomed through the room. "What are you talking about?" she asked, playing innocent. "In front of Holden, really?" Mason roared. "Are you having an affair with Harry?" Holden stood frozen, unsure whether to speak or leave. The tension in the room was suffocating. The next morning, Holden decided to check on Lana. She was in the garden, tending to her flowers, roses, except they were crawling with aphids. She brushed them off delicately, as if it were nothing. Holden hesitated before asking, "Are you okay?" Lana smiled softly, her gaze calm but distant. "Don't worry about me," she said. "Everything will be fine." But Holden wasn't sure he believed her. Something told him this family drama was far from over. Shortly after their intense reunion, Mason invited Holden to spend some quality time together. His pride and joy, a sleek new car that he absolutely adored, and one Holden hadn't been allowed to drive. "We'll take it for a spin," Mason promised. But before they could leave, work obligations pulled Mason away, leaving Holden disappointed and alone. Back home, Holden wandered the house aimlessly until he found himself in Lana's room. His eyes widened when he saw her panties casually spread out on the bed, as if left there on purpose. His curiosity got the better of him. Unable to resist, he picked them up, holding them for a moment too long, captivated by the feeling. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Lana stepped inside. Holden's heart raced, his face flushing with panic. But miraculously, she didn't notice anything unusual. Playing it cool, Lana invited him to visit her favorite hangout spot. Just the two of them. To make the offer even more tempting, she suggested they take Mason's prize car for the ride. Holden hesitated. "Your husband would kill me." "Relax," she said with a wink. "He doesn't need to know." The thrill of rebellion won him over, and soon, they were cruising down the road. They arrived at the restaurant, but to their surprise, it was closed. The owner was on vacation. "No problem," Lana said with a mischievous grin, heading straight for the hidden spare key. They let themselves in and made themselves comfortable. With a bottle of whiskey between them, they lost track of time, diving deep into conversation about their lives, their dreams, and the secrets they never shared with anyone else. Suddenly, they heard the jingle of keys. The restaurant owner was back. "Hide," Lana whispered, pulling Holden under the table just in time. They held their breath as the footsteps grew louder, inches away from being caught. When the coast was clear, the tension of the moment overwhelmed them. The heat of their earlier conversation mixed with the thrill of almost being discovered, and they gave into the passion building between them. Right there, under the dim glow of the restaurant lights, they crossed a line neither of them could come back from. When they returned home, reality hit hard. Mason was furious. Behind closed doors, Holden could hear him scolding Lana, his voice muffled but unmistakably angry. At breakfast the next morning, Holden couldn't help but notice the faint bruise on Lana's wrist. "What happened?" he asked softly. She simply smiled, brushing it off. "It's nothing. Don't worry." Later, Mason took Holden outside for a game of basketball, or so Holden thought. But it wasn't about bonding. Mason's temper flared, and in a flash of rage, he punched Holden in the stomach. "Don't touch my car again," Mason growled, leaving Holden doubled over in pain, while Lana watched silently from the window. That night, Holden lay in bed nursing his bruises when a soft knock interrupted the silence. It was Lana. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "Mason's snoring is unbearable." Holden chuckled weakly. "Same here, but for different reasons." They sat together, their conversation flowing like before. But this time, their emotions ran deeper. Hurt, anger, and longing all colliding. They gave into the pull they could no longer resist, their lips meeting as they quickly made their way to Holden's room. Just as things heated up, the door burst open. "Mason." Holden's heart jumped to his throat as Lana darted into the bathroom, barely avoiding being seen. Mason, oblivious, apologized for his earlier outburst and left. Once the coast was clear, Holden frantically whispered, "You need to go. Now." The next morning, Mason left for work, and the moment the door shut, Lana and Holden found themselves entangled once again. This time, there was no guilt, only passion. But the longer it lasted, the harder it became to let go. Later, they met up with Nicole, who was eager to share her passion for journalism. Mason, ever the proud father, bragged about Holden's Harvard education, but dismissed Holden's dreams of becoming an architect. "Architecture doesn't make money like business," Mason said. Holden swallowed his frustration, bottling it up as Mason encouraged him to spend more time with Nicole. Meanwhile, Lana struggled to hide her feelings. She found more joy in Holden's company than in her own marriage, and it was becoming painfully obvious. That night, after Holden returned from his date with Nicole, Lana checked on him again. They sat together in the quiet of the night, and Holden confessed his anger at his father's control over his life. "I want to leave," he admitted. "But I can't. Not with you here." The next day, Holden joined Mason on a hunting trip. With a rifle in his hands and years of resentment bubbling inside him, Holden almost acted on his rage. For a brief, dangerous moment, he thought about pulling the trigger, but he didn't. Back home, Holden tried to make peace, offering Mason a glass of the juice he used to drink when Holden was a kid. But Mason's mind was elsewhere. "I think Lana's cheating on me," he admitted, his suspicion growing stronger by the day. Even Nicole's recent strange behavior added to his paranoia. That afternoon, Holden and Lana met at a motel, their secret rendezvous far from over. But as they lay together, Holden suggested ending the affair. "We can't keep doing this," he said. But Lana refused, her voice firm and her eyes filled with longing. "I'm not ready to let you go." And in that moment, they both knew they were caught in a spiral they couldn't escape, no matter how dangerous it became. Holden and Lana spent the afternoon together, their connection growing deeper as they basked in each other's company until nightfall. But by the time Holden awoke from the haze of their rendezvous, Lana had quietly slipped away, leaving him alone with a whirlwind of emotions. When Holden returned home, the smell of something metallic hit him before he even made it to the kitchen. His heart pounded. There, sprawled on the floor, lay his father, Mason, covered in blood, multiple stab wounds staining the floor. Holden's breath hitched. Was this real? His mind raced as sirens blared in the distance. The police arrived, their questions sharp and relentless. Holden and Lana were both interrogated, but they each denied any involvement. Even with their alibis, the detectives weren't convinced. The shadow of suspicion loomed over them. With the investigation underway, Harry, Mason's trusted attorney, stepped in and offered Holden and Lana temporary refuge at his house. But behind the friendly gesture, Harry couldn't help but suspect Holden of foul play. His gaze lingered a second too long, and his questions hinted at doubt. Later that night, Lana confided in Holden, her voice trembling. "Nicole has been blackmailing me. She has a tape of us together." Holden's blood ran cold. His first instinct was to confront Nicole, to shut her down before she destroyed their lives. But when he tried to catch her, she bolted, vanishing into the night. Before Holden could regroup, he received a call from Harry. "There's something you need to see," Harry said grimly. When Holden arrived, Harry showed him the tape, delivered anonymously to his doorstep. On it was footage of Holden and Lana during their most intimate moment. Holden was shocked. Unable to deny the truth any longer, he admitted to Harry about his affair with Lana and explained Nicole's blackmail scheme. But Harry had his own theory. "Someone's setting you up, Holden. They're trying to ruin you and steal Mason's fortune for Lana." Desperate, Harry urged Holden to stay under his roof for safety. But Holden had other plans. He needed clothes, and he wasn't about to leave his home behind without answers. When he returned to the house, Holden discovered a letter in the garage. His hands trembled as he read it. It was a confession, one that pinned Mason's murder on him. His breath quickened. "This isn't me," he muttered, trying to make sense of it. Then, footsteps. Lana appeared at the entrance, holding a gun. Holden reacted instantly, lunging at her and wrestling her to the ground. "Lana, what the hell is going on?" Tears streamed down her face, her wide eyes pleading. "I thought you were someone else trying to kill me," she cried. Holden's heart pounded as he mumbled, "I'm sorry," unsure of what he was apologizing for. The scene cut abruptly as he rushed to Harry's house, the confession letter still in hand. "They've set me up," Holden said, his voice frantic. "Lana forged this letter using my laptop. She's framing me." Together, they went to the police, but without any concrete evidence, Holden was arrested for Mason's murder. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Lana was nowhere to be found. She had vanished. Just when everything seemed lost, a familiar voice echoed through the station. "I have something you'll want to hear," said Nicole, stepping forward. What she revealed changed everything. Nicole confessed that she and Lana had been in a secret relationship. Lana had manipulated her into framing Holden, convincing her to stage the scene at the restaurant and pretend to blackmail them. It was all part of Lana's twisted plan to make Holden the scapegoat for Mason's death. But the truth didn't stop there. The investigation soon uncovered that Lana had poisoned Mason, making his death look like a violent stabbing to throw off suspicion. The pieces fell into place. The bruises, the staged arguments, the blackmail. It had all been part of her master plan. With Lana now a fugitive, Holden was cleared of all charges. Back at home, Holden burned his father's marriage album, the flames consuming the painful memories of betrayal. Just as the last photo curled into ash, the door creaked open. Nicole entered the room, but something about her was different. She wasn't just Nicole. She was Stacy, Holden's ex-girlfriend. She smiled, holding a gun loosely in her hand. "You didn't think I was gone, did you?" she teased. The shocking truth unraveled. Holden and Stacy had been plotting Mason's murder all along. The aphid pesticide, the poison in his drink, it was their plan from the start. After Mason died, Stacy had staged the stabbing to make it look like a violent crime, giving them time to frame Lana and take the fortune for themselves. They had even staged Lana's supposed death, believing she had fallen off a cliff. But Lana was far from finished. When Lana reappeared, ready to exact revenge, Holden distracted her just long enough to escape. Their final confrontation ended near the river, where a police officer intervened, shooting Lana and sending her tumbling into the rushing water below. With Lana gone for good and the murder mystery finally put to rest, Holden inherited Mason's estate. With Stacy by his side, they moved forward, leaving the chaos behind. But their shared secret remained, a deadly bond that neither of them could ever escape. Did you enjoy the recap? Please like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be updated next time we drop. Thanks for watching.